Hey, sons. I am somewhere west of Alice, Texas, and I've been invited this past weekend on a hunting trip and just had some reflections on it. I did not grow up hunting, so everything, even though I've gone a few times, I'm so much in need of being fathered in this area, but it's such a picture of the larger story that we're living in. You know, we're out here, and I don't have any qualms about hunting if you eat the meat and you do it in the most ethical way possible. But we're out here, and from this vantage point right here, right off of here, I ended up shooting a deer a couple hundred yards in that direction with my buddy's borrowed gun, and it just took off last night. So, you know, you hunt in the morning and then you hunt in the afternoon before dusk. And so we went, and as soon as it was shot, it took off. It bounded, and that's very, very common for animals. Hopefully you hit them in the heart and boom, they just drop immediately. But some really interesting lessons as we have been scouring these woods looking for that wounded animal for the last 2.5 hours. We actually had a guide who does this professionally come and help us, and he was just sharing his experiences, and he was talking about the tenacity of some of these animals. They're tough. I mean, they're going through this brush, it's all prickly and you've got stickers all over you. And this thing, we tracked it, and we would find a little bit of blood, and then we'd track it a little further and we'd find a little bit of blood. And it's actually really fun to try and track it, but we have a desire, of course, to get to it and put it out of its misery as quickly as possible and then harvest it. But the idea that we are put in the position to see a beautiful animal, a beautiful piece of God's creation, and then to destroy it. God said, I want you to think about your enemy. Now, as I sat right here with the gun on this iron bar, the last thing I thought before pulling the trigger as I looked through the scope was, what a gorgeous animal. It had a beautiful, probably an 8-point rack on it, absolutely majestic, and a lot of meat, you know, to put in my freezer, and, you know, spaghetti sauce and chili and steaks and sausages, which my family, with the exception of my wife, enjoys. And so that was my goal for it. But, you know, our enemy has a different goal, and somewhere in our story, like I did with that deer, we get wounded. You know, whether the enemy does the wounding or whether he just takes advantage of something that happens in our story, a wounding probably from a person, a circumstance, a coach, a girlfriend, a wife, a best friend, a teacher. You know, we get wounded, we get weakened, just like that animal out there, and then the enemy will just hunt you down, and he's following that trail of your blood, following the wounding of your heart for the rest of your life, and he's bringing you to the point of utter exhaustion until you literally just give up. That is his goal. That is his destiny for you and me. He is hell-bent on luring you out, just like we used bait basically to lure him out, make him feel safe, and then we cut him down, you know. And the enemy does that with sex and money and power and fame and all these things that we feel like we need to secure in order to be safe. And then he just waits to wound us, and then he takes that wound and he will follow us for the rest of our lives, trying to kill and destroy us. And the solution is not to keep running, which I have done much of my life. And and most of us, we get that wound and we try and hide it. We go hide in the brush. He was trying desperately to hide from us. But this guide, Robert, he was telling us stories. There is a deer out here that's been shot 3 times, and they call him the warrior because his wounds have healed. And that's why he's still out here. That's why he's smart. That's why he's now so elusive, as he's taken the wounds, but he found healing. And what a picture. As we are entering into a really brutal part of human history, I think, more than ever. It's always been this strategy. The enemy wounds us, he capitalizes on it, he drives us, and he drives us into hiding when the actual solution is to get healing for the wound. And that is what he's been bringing up in me, at my age, 52. There are wounds in me that I can keep running from, that I can keep hiding from, I can keep trying to cover up, or I can go to him and seek healing. And in the last 18 months, that's what he's done. He's actually pursued me, and he's made me so aware of the broken places that are still there after all this time. And he's saying, you can keep running, but eventually you're going to fall, drop, and die, or you can seek healing from me. And praise God, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And that's the solution for us. Where have you been wounded? What are the early wounds? What are the things that have had you be, what have been driving you into hiding, into self-protection? And what would it look like to take those, be observant of them, and take them to the only one that can heal them? And that way, we're actually stronger, more powerful than we ever have been. Anyway, there's just my thoughts, the ways that God is fathering me spiritually through the material fathering of men like my buddy John, who invites me out on these weekends. It's such a spiritual parallel to what we're doing. Anyway, bless you guys. Those are just my thoughts from the weekend. Let's get healing together. All right, take care. Here's our camp.